what this is all about. Relationships aren't just for companionship. They're a mirror. They show you what you're hiding, what you're healing, what you truly desire. When someone shows up and suddenly you're not who you used to be, when your patterns start to shift, that's not a small thing. That's a soul-level impact. It doesn't always feel comfortable, but it's always meaningful. Sometimes the sign is internal. It's not what's happening outside. It's what's happening inside you. A sudden calm when they're around. A clarity you haven't felt in years. Or even a fear because their presence challenges a version of yourself you've outgrown. That fear is not always a red flag. Sometimes it's the signal that you're about to expand. The people who are meant for you often stretch you, not in ways that break you, but in ways that help you become more of who you are. There's also timing. Divine timing doesn't always match your calendar. Maybe you meet and it's not the right moment. Maybe you part ways but they keep coming back. Not in a toxic loop, but in an organic rhythm. Sometimes you both need to grow separately before you can meet as equals. The universe is patient. It waits for the alignment of hearts, not just clocks. And if you're meant to be, no amount of detours will stop that convergence. It'll come not because you chased it, but because you were ready for it. And while we're here, if you're the kind of person who loves exploring destiny, soul contracts, and the deeper meaning behind everyday life, don't forget to subscribe. It helps us keep sharing these insights, and it helps you stay connected to a space where this kind of depth is welcome. Some signs are small, a glance, a dream, a shared silence. Others are loud, a breakup that clears the path, a coincidence that stops your breath. But they're all part of the same language. The universe doesn't work in straight lines. It weaves, it circles, and love, when it's true, finds its way through that spiral. It might not always look how you expect. It might come in disguise. But your soul will know. It always does. One of the most overlooked signs is the feeling of being at home. Not fireworks, not adrenaline, but peace. Safety. That exhale you didn't know you were holding. That's often the surest sign of a deep connection. When you're with them and you don't feel the need to perform, to impress, to shrink. That's the universe saying, this is safe. This is true. This is real. And let's be honest, not everyone will understand. Sometimes the universe sends you someone who doesn't fit your checklist but fits your soul. That's the challenge, to see beyond appearances, beyond ego, and into essence. To trust the feeling over the formula. And when you do, you open yourself to a kind of love that isn't just romantic, it's transformative. Jung believed the unconscious is always trying to make us whole. And love is one of its tools. Not love as fantasy, but love as a mirror, as a fire, as a guide. When you meet someone and your old wounds rise to the surface, that's not a mistake. That's the work. That's the healing. The people who are meant for you will not complete you, but they will remind you of your wholeness. They will walk beside you as you reclaim the parts of yourself you thought were lost. It's not about clinging or forcing. It's about recognizing. It's about paying attention when life starts aligning in impossible ways. When every part of your being says, this is different, and instead of running, you lean in. You stay open, even when it's vulnerable, especially then. If you've ever had someone come into your life and everything just made sense, not because it was easy, but because it was real, you know what I'm talking about. And maybe that person isn't in your life right now. Maybe they were just a catalyst, but their presence changed you. And that matters. That's the universe at work. So, let's keep this conversation going. Drop a comment and share what signs you've experienced. What moments made you believe that something greater was guiding your path? Because when we share, we realize we're not alone. These aren't isolated events. They're threads in a much larger story. And if you want to keep diving into that story with me, subscribe. There's more to uncover. More signs to decode. More mysteries to explore. This journey is far from over. The universe is always speaking, we just have to learn how to listen. Sometimes you meet someone, and there's this undeniable pull, as if the universe itself paused for a moment just to align the two of you. It's not about logic or coincidence or timing. It's deeper. Carl Jung would call it synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that aren't linked by cause and effect, but by meaning. And when you start noticing those patterns, those strange nudges from reality, it becomes harder to ignore that something bigger might be at play. You see the same name over and over again. You dream about them before you even meet. Their presence feels familiar, like a memory you haven't lived yet. It's unsettling and comforting at the same time. The signs aren't always loud. In fact, they're usually quiet, subtle, almost like whispers. You run into them in the most unexpected places, at the most unexpected times. Maybe you hear a song on the radio that reminds you of them, and then they text you seconds later. Maybe you think about them just before they call, and it happens again and again. Eventually, you stop chalking it up to randomness. You begin to sense a pattern, like reality is weaving them into your life thread by thread. Jung believed that these synchronicities were the psyche's way of communicating with the external world, a bridge between the inner and outer realities. And if you're watching this, chances are you've felt it before. That strange familiarity, that magnetic connection, that sense that this person, whoever they are, was placed in your path not by chance, but by intention. And that's where destiny comes in. Not as some pre-written script, but as a collaboration between your choices and the signs the universe throws your way. The more aligned you become with yourself, your true self, the more those signs appear. You stop chasing. You start noticing. And in those moments of awareness, things begin to click. Now would be a perfect time to hit subscribe if you haven't yet. If these stories resonate with you, there's a reason for that. We dive deep into topics like this all the time, and if you've made it this far, you're already part of the conversation. So hit that button and stay connected. One of the most powerful signs that the universe is aligning you with someone is the inexplicable sense of peace you feel around them. Not butterflies, not anxiety, but stillness, as if your nervous system can finally rest. And you might not even know why. You don't have to speak for hours. Sometimes, just sitting next to them in silence feels like the loudest conversation you've ever had. There's no pressure to perform, no need to impress. You can just be. That kind of connection isn't ordinary. It doesn't happen every day. And when it does, it's usually for a reason. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That quote hits differently when you think about relationships. Because sometimes the people we're drawn to aren't random at all. They're reflections of something within us. Unresolved wounds, hidden desires, forgotten dreams. And when we start to heal, when we start becoming more conscious, we attract different kinds of people. People who mirror our growth instead of our pain. That shift is also a sign. The universe begins sending people who align not with who we were, but with who we're becoming. Have you ever met someone at the exact moment you needed them? Like the universe conspired to make it happen. Maybe you were going through a hard time. Maybe you were questioning everything. And then, out of nowhere, this person enters your life and suddenly, things make more sense. They don't fix everything, but they change everything. Your perspective shifts, your energy shifts, and you begin to feel like you're not navigating life alone anymore. That's not just chemistry. That's alignment. That's the universe placing someone on your path because your souls recognize something in each other. And sometimes the sign isn't the person. Sometimes it's the transformation they trigger in you. You start doing things you never did before. You grow. You soften. You open up. It's like their presence gives you permission to be the version of yourself you were always meant to be. That kind of awakening isn't an accident. It's a sign. A sacred one. The kind you don't ignore. And by the way, if you're feeling this, leave a comment. Share your story. Tell us if you've ever felt that pull, that uncanny connection. This community is filled with people who get it. Your experience might help someone else feel seen. Another sign is timing. Not just that you met, but when you met. Maybe you crossed paths years ago, but the connection didn't click until now. Maybe you had to go through certain things, learn certain lessons before you were ready for EAC.